Here are the top stories this hour. 6 Palestinians killed in airstrike targets in Al-Shifa Hospital, Gaza. Israel forces kill Palestinian in West Bank. Death toll rises to 182. Plus, UN says about 90% people displaced by Myanmar conflict. Welcome to the World News on VOP TV. I am Masinachi Okafo. The Israeli warplanes on Thursday carried out several overnight raids on Gaza hospitals, including Al-Shifa, the main hospital in the besieged enclave. According to the Gaza-based health ministry, a fire broke out at the ground of the Al-Shanti's pediatric hospital from the Israeli airstrikes. Report says that Al-Shifa hospital came under heavy bombardment in the very vicinity of the hospital, killing at least 6 Palestinians and injuring others. It was stated that Indonesian hospital north of Gaza came under a series of heavy Israeli aircrafts in its vicinity, causing panic among medical staff, patients, and displaced people into the hospital. It added that Al-Wada Hospital in northern Gaza became the target of Israeli airstrikes, which left 2 medics wounded and 2 ambulances destroyed. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society reported heavy Israeli airstrikes near Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza City, a medical facility home to nearly 14,000 Palestinian displaced. According to the Gaza-based government media office, 18 hospitals out of 34 across Gaza were out of service due to either Israeli bombardment or the lack of fuel and medical supplies. Meanwhile, Palestinian official media stated on Friday that a Palestinian was killed and 9 others injured when the Israeli army raided the Nablus city in the occupied West Bank. According to reports, 21-year-old Laid Mohammed Baku Nassara was killed by the Israeli army gunfire when the clashes broke out between the Israeli forces and Palestinians resisting the raid on the town of Beit Farouk. The recent killing has raised the death toll from attacks by Israeli forces and settlers in the occupied West Bank since ongoing Israel-Palestinian fighting started last month to 182. The Israeli army has agreed to observe breaks of a few hours each day in the north of Gaza Strip to allow Palestinian civilians to flee. Israel, however, agreed to make daily humanitarian pauses from Thursday to allow civilians to flee from north, where fighting is raging, towards the south of the territory, according to United States. White House spokesperson John Kirby stated that Washington has received assurance that there would be no military operations in these areas for the duration of the pause. Jill Stein, who announced on Thursday that she is penetrating the U.S. presidential race, called for an investigation into Israel's war crimes in Gaza and denounced President Joe Biden and other leaders of the alleged supporting role. She stated that President Biden and bipartisan leaders are not only complicit, but they are all full partners in Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's crime. Stein ran against Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton and Republican candidate Donald Trump in 2016 as the Green Party's nominee. The United Nations stated that 90,000 people have been displaced in Myanmar due to the intensifying conflict between the country's military rulers and alliance of ethnic armed groups. The United Nations Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, noted in an update on Friday that as of 9th November, almost 50,000 people in northern Shan were forced into displacement. OCHA added that a further 40,000 people have been displaced by clashes between the military and its opponents in neighboring Stagen region and Kachin state since early November. Recall that 2 weeks ago, one of the Myanmar's most powerful ethnic armed alliances launched a coordinated attack on a dozen military outposts in northern Shan state, which sits on the country's eastern border with China, and captured the border town of Chinsha Hao. The offensive is the most serious test for the generals since they seized power from the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi in February 2021. The Palestinians has accused the Chinese Coast Guard of dangerous harassment of Filipino boats in the disputed South China Sea, including firing a water canoe and blocking vessels on a resupply mission. The incident happened on Friday during a Palestinian mission to deliver provisions to tiny garrison on 2nd Thomas Shore, which is part of the Spratly Islands and a long-standing flashpoint between the countries. Manila said the Chinese Coast Guard and other vehicles recklessly harassed, blocked, executed dangerous maneuvers as they tried to illegally obstruct Friday's mission. According to Philippines National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea, a Chinese Coast Guard vessel had fired a water canoe against one of the two supply boats. Top cabinet officials of India and the United States held talks on Friday, stressing the need to further strengthen their friendship to be able to deal with urgent global geopolitical challenges. The annual 2+2 dialogue between the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and their Indian counterparts, Foreign Minister Subrahmanyam Jaishankar and Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, aims to boost defense cooperation and align the policy objectives of the two countries in the Indo-Pacific region. Officials stated that although Washington is preoccupied with the wars in Gaza and Ukraine, Friday's talk are expected to focus more on taking forward the India-US defense and strategic relationship and regional issues in South Asia and the large Indian Ocean region. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol plans to attend a roundtable on technological cooperation with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida at Stanford University on November 17th. Yoon's office disclosed in a statement that the two leaders will attend the event while they are in the United States for a summit of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation (APEC) member states in San Francisco next week. It also added that they are expected to discuss technology cooperation between the two countries as well as three-way cooperation with the United States. Japanese news reported this week that Kishida was expected to stress the importance of cooperating on the source of semiconductors and strategic minerals, and on developing artificial intelligence technology. Yoon has made it a priority to mend ties with Japan since taking office in May 2022 and to restore trilateral security cooperation with the United States as North Korea ramps up its weapons programs and openly threatens the South. Prosecutors in Burundi are seeking life imprisonment for former Prime Minister who is on trial for 7 charges, including using witchcraft to threaten the president's life. Buyoni trial started in September, a year after he was fired by President Evariste Ndayishimiye over suspicious that Buyoni was plotting a coup against him. Buyoni is also accused of undermining national security, subverting government institutions, destabilizing the economy, and enriching himself through illegal means. Buyoni pleaded not guilty to all charges and asked to be acquitted, citing a lack of tangible evidence against him. Prosecutor Jean Bosco Bukumi also called for Buyoni to pay damages equivalent to twice the value of the 153 houses and plots of land and the 43 vehicles belonging to him, in addition to a fine of $2,400. The prosecution also requested 30-year sentence for the 6 co-accused, who include a police colonel and a senior intelligence agent. A major bridge in southwestern Somalia town of Badaha has collapsed following flooding caused by heavy rain that has been pounding the country for days. The bridge was vital to the movement of people traveling between towns and villages in the Gedo region. Locals have expressed concerns about being isolated from their neighborhoods. Authorities have dispatched 2 boats to rescue those affected. Gedo is one of the regions in Somalia worst affected by devastating floods. More than a dozen persons have been killed by the floods across the country, while thousands have either been displaced or isolated. Ghana's Finance Ministry disclosed on Thursday that the African Development Bank, AFDP, has approved a $102.6 million budget support program for Ghana focused on fiscal consolidation and economic recovery. Ghana, which produces gold, cocoa, and oil, is in talks with bilateral and commercial creditors to restructure its debts amid its worst economic crisis in a generation. The West African nation has been locked out of international capital markets as it struggles with spiraling domestic debt cost. The program complements Ghana's ongoing extended credit facility with the International Monetary Fund. The IMF's executive board in May approved a $3 billion loan over 3 years for the African country, with an immediate disbursement of about $6 million. Ghana expects to receive another tranche after a debt restructuring deal with its official creditors. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will present the West African nation's 2024 budget in Parliament on November 15th. Somalia president has undergone a successful shoulder surgery in the United Arab Emirates, that's UAE. The presidency office stated on Thursday that Hassan Sheikhu Mohamud is recovering well from the minor medical operation. It did not give further details about what happened to his shoulder. The president stayed in Abu Dhabi for a few days, where he also met top Emirates officials. He later traveled to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to attend the Saudi African Summit. Since his re-election last year, Mahmoud has traveled to several countries, including Gulf nations, to seek support for his government's offensive against al-Shabaab. Finally, on world news, a diphtheria outbreak has been declared at South Africa's Portsmouth maximum prison following the death of a 19-year-old inmate. Health Minister Dr. Joe Fowler disclosed that the male inmate who contracted the disease last month died on Sunday. 8 more inmates aged 18 to 23 are in isolation after testing positive for the disease. Dr. Fowler added that staff members who displayed symptoms are awaiting their results. He disclosed that a vaccination drive in the affected section of the prison is underway. Diphtheria is a vaccine-preventable but highly contagious bacterial disease that affects the nose and throat and also causes skin ulcers. It is spread by coughs and sneezes or through close contact with an infected person, and in serious cases can be fatal, according to the country's National Institute for Communicable Disease. South Africa has only recorded sporadic diphtheria cases since it started immunizing against the disease in 1950s. Nigeria is currently battling one of its worst diphtheria outbreaks, which has killed more than 600 persons and infected over 14,000. That's it on the world news on VOP TV. I am Masinachi Okafo. VOP Business Show coming up next. Thanks for watching.